Imagine stepping back in time, 500 million years ago, to a world unlike anything we know today. The Earth's oceans were vast and mysterious, filled with creatures that seem almost alien to us now. This was the Cambrian period, a time when life on Earth underwent a dramatic and sudden transformation, what scientists call the Cambrian Explosion. Our journey through deep time takes us to an era between 485 and 540 million years ago. This was a period when Earth's oceans were teeming with a kaleidoscope of bizarre creatures. But the story doesn't end there. The Cambrian Explosion wasn't just about the sudden appearance of these creatures. It was also a time when life on Earth began to diversify at a breathtaking pace. Many of the animal phyla that exist today first appeared during this period, each representing a unique evolutionary lineage. But what makes the Cambrian Explosion so remarkable is the speed at which it occurred. In a relatively short span of geological time, the oceans went from being relatively simple to incredibly complex. The reason behind this sudden burst of diversity is still debated, but it was likely a combination of various factors, including environmental changes and the availability of oxygen. As the Earth's atmosphere continued to oxygenate, it created the conditions for larger, more complex animals to thrive. So let's dive into the fascinating world of the Cambrian period and explore the incredible creatures that called it home. First, let's meet some of the most iconic residents of the Cambrian seas, the trilobites. These strange creatures were small, typically ranging from a few millimeters to around 60 centimeters in length. They resembled modern woodlice and were among the most diverse and abundant animals of their time. With over 20,000 species identified, they played a crucial role in the Cambrian ecosystem. Trilobites were well equipped for survival. They had a hard, segmented shell that protected their soft underbellies, making them less vulnerable to predators. However, they were not completely invincible. In fact, many trilobite fossils show evidence of being eaten by other creatures, suggesting a constant struggle for survival in the ever-changing oceans. When faced with danger, trilobites would curl up into a ball, shielding their vital organs and presenting their tough armor to potential predators. This defensive strategy proved effective, and their fossils are still one of the most important remnants of the era. But trilobites weren't the only creatures making waves in the oceans. The Cambrian period was a time of explosive diversity, a veritable explosion of life. This was particularly true among marine invertebrates. So let's turn our attention to these diverse and fascinating creatures. Marine invertebrates were a diverse group of animals that lacked a backbone or vertebral column. They were a dominant feature of the Cambrian seas and included a wide range of organisms such as sponges, corals, jellyfish, and the ancestors of modern mollusks and arthropods. Sponges, for example, were among the earliest animals to colonize the oceans. They were simple, filter-feeding organisms that played a crucial role in the food chain. Corals, on the other hand, were colonial animals that secreted calcium carbonate exoskeletons, forming structures that provided habitat for a variety of other creatures. Jellyfish, with their stinging cells and gelatinous bodies, were both predator and prey in the Cambrian seas. And the ancestors of modern mollusks and arthropods were just beginning to make their presence felt, paving the way for some of the most iconic creatures in the history of life on Earth. Among the most enigmatic and diverse group of marine invertebrates were the Lobopods. These strange creatures were soft-bodied organisms with numerous legs that they used to crawl along the sea floor. They ranged in size from a few millimeters to several meters in length and came in a variety of shapes and forms. Some were segmented while others were unsegmented. Some were covered in spines or other protective structures while others were smooth. Lobopods were likely scavengers and predators, feeding on dead animals and other organic matter on the seafloor. They played an important role in nutrient cycling, breaking down dead organisms and recycling the nutrients within them. Despite their ecological importance, Lobopods were relatively short-lived. They disappeared from the fossil record after the Cambrian period, likely due to competition with more advanced animals such as arthropods. As we continue our exploration of the Cambrian seas, we encounter another group of fascinating creatures, the first mollusks. These ancient animals include the ancestors of today's snails, clams, squid, and octopus. During the Cambrian period, mollusks were just beginning to diversify, and their fossils provide a glimpse into the early evolution of this group. One of the first mollusks to appear in the fossil record was a small, shelled creature known as a gastropod. With a single, spiral-shaped shell, these ancestors of modern snails were likely scavengers, feeding on dead animals and other organic matter on the seafloor. Another early mollusk was the bivalve, which had two shells hinged together. These ancestors of clams and oysters were filter feeders, using their shells to create a current that brought food-rich water toward their mouths. Despite their early appearance, mollusks were not yet the dominant force in the oceans that they would become later in history. That distinction would have to wait until the next period, the Ordovician. Now let's talk about the most significant development during the Cambrian, the rise of the first vertebrates. Vertebrates are animals with a backbone or spinal column. Their fossil record provides a window into the origins of the most complex animals on Earth, including ourselves. The story of vertebrates began with the jawless fish. These strange creatures were the first animals to have a backbone, a defining feature of all vertebrates. Jawless fish were eel-like creatures that used their flexible tooth-lined mouths to suck up prey. They were active predators, cruising through the water in search of food. Jawless fish were also the first animals to have specialized sense organs for detecting chemicals and changes in water pressure, which helped them find prey and avoid predators. The appearance of jawless fish marked a turning point in the history of life on Earth. It was the beginning of the vertebrate story and the foundation upon which all future vertebrates would be built. As jawless fish evolved and diversified, they gave rise to the first jawed fish, the first tetrapods, or four-footed vertebrates, and ultimately to all land vertebrates including amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. And finally, let's explore the diverse array of predators that inhabited the Cambrian seas. The Cambrian Explosion was a time when animals began to grow larger and more complex, and with that came the evolution of new hunting strategies and adaptations. Many of the predators of the Cambrian were ambush predators, using their speed and agility to catch their prey off guard. For example, the Anomalocauris was a large, predatory arthropod that had a circular mouth with powerful jaws for crushing and tearing flesh. It was an apex predator, feeding on a variety of animals, including other arthropods, mollusks, and even early vertebrates. Another group of predatory arthropods were the Eurypterids, also known as sea scorpions. These creatures were huge, with some species growing to be over 3 meters in length. They had a combination of spines and protective armor that made them formidable opponents. Eurypterids were active hunters, using their large size and powerful appendages to capture prey. The oceans of the Cambrian were filled with terrifying predators, but also creatures with unique and sometimes bizarre adaptations. The Hallucigenia, for example, was a strange creature with a thin, worm-like body and a collection of spines and tentacles along its back. Its most distinctive feature was its head, which was adorned with a pair of large, protruding eyes. While the exact nature of these structures is still debated, they likely played a role in the Hallucigenia's strange appearance and behavior. The Cambrian seas were also home to the first known parasitic animals. These creatures, known as the first known parasitic animals, these creatures, known as the Halcyonellids, were small, snail-like organisms that attached themselves to the bodies of larger animals, feeding on their blood or other bodily fluids. This parasitic lifestyle was a significant adaptation that would have major implications for the evolution of life on Earth. Parasitism is a widespread phenomenon in nature today, but it was only during the Cambrian that we see the first evidence of it in the fossil record. In conclusion, the Cambrian period was a transformative chapter in Earth's history, marking the dawn of complex life in the oceans. It was a time when the Earth's oceans teemed with a kaleidoscope of bizarre creatures, from the iconic trilobites to the strange and enigmatic Lobopods. The Cambrian Explosion was a remarkable event that gave rise to the first vertebrates and set the stage for the evolution of all future vertebrates, including ourselves. As we continue to explore the fascinating creatures of the Cambrian, we are reminded of the incredible diversity and adaptability of life on Earth. Each of these creatures, from the smallest mollusk to the largest eurypterid, played a role in shaping the world around it, influencing the evolution of other species and driving the development of new ecosystems. The legacy of the Cambrian lives on in the creatures that inhabit our oceans today, reminding us of the rich history and interconnectedness of all life on Earth. Now, let's move on to our next video.